Good afternoon. My name is Christina Patel. I'm one of the pre-nursing programming coordinators. Today I'll be moderating the Bachelor's of Science in Nursing Admissions panel. Before I get started, I would like to thank AAMC for sponsoring the conference and bringing it to you all across the world. Today's panel will be covering both traditional and accelerated programs. We are very excited to have 6 distinguished panelists from different institutions across the country. First, we'll have our panelists introduce themselves, followed by answering questions which we have previously submitted by pre-nursing students through an online submission on our website and through social media. If you have any questions, please submit them on Twitter or Facebook. It's hashtag UCDPHSA14. Popular questions will be put into the live panel. Now, if we could have our panelists introduce themselves, their title, and the name of their institution, starting with and welcoming Ms. Filomena Circelli.
Thank you, Christina. I'm Filomena Circelli. I'm the Associate Director for the Accelerated Nursing Program, but I also work with the Transfer Program as well, and from the University of Pennsylvania, which is in Philadelphia, so not too far from here. So I'm very excited to be here.
Good afternoon. My name is Cam Armstrong. I'm the Director of Student Services for the Baylor University Louise Herrington School of Nursing, which is in Dallas, Texas.
Hi, everybody. I'm Liza Osoteo. I'm with Samuel Merritt University. I'm the Admissions and Student Services Coordinator at our Sacramento campus. So I represent the Accelerated BSN, the Entry-Level Masters. We also have a CRNA program, a DNP program, and a traditional BSN. Thanks for coming on a Saturday afternoon.
Good afternoon. I'm Rhonda Flenoy-Younger. I'm Director of Admissions, Outreach, and Recruitment. Oversee all admissions and recruitment for all of our programs, the BS program, entry-level program, advanced practice, and PhD.
She's from UCLA.
Oh, I'm from UCLA. Tired.
Yeah, I know. She's been working hard. She came up here too. I'm Bridet. I just drove over. I'm Dr. Bridet Parsh. I'm Associate Professor of Nursing at Sacramento State. And I have some of my nursing students up with us. There's Sylvia anyway. We have a couple more that are going to make their way over. So after the panel, if you wanted to ask them some questions, they're going to stay over for a little bit. I teach pediatrics, and I work a lot with pre-nursing students, mainly about the traditional program. We also have a master's and an RN to BSN. We do not have an accelerated program, just in case that was a question.
Okay. Can each panelist take 1 to 2 minutes to answer a common question asked by pre-nursing students? What makes your nursing program stand out from other programs offered at other schools? Let's start with Ms. Bridet Parsh.
Hi. Well, we're close. How's that? No, we at Sacramento State, we've been doing our nursing program's been around for more than 50 years, and we have a bachelor's program. It's an excellent program, highly competitive to get into. We have great clinical placements throughout the area. UC Davis, Sutter, Kaiser, VA, lots of different placements throughout. Definitely you want to look on the Board of Nursing website to look for the passing rates for the NCLEX exam. That should definitely be something that you look at. You have some great institutions here, so I'm sure they're all pretty high, but that is something that you want to look at when you're applying, because you want to go to a school that has a high pass rate, and we definitely have that. We accept 80 students every semester, not every year, every semester. And we have a very active chapter of CNSA, California Nursing Students. So they're very active in the community, and that's what they're doing here today. They're working. Thank you.
So UCLA is nationally ranked, and we're ranked #1 in Southern California. So if you want your nursing education in Southern California, you can't get any better than UCLA. Our faculty are internationally known as well as nationally known. We are a research institution, so our students learn a lot about nursing research, and we do encourage you to continue your education either as advanced practice nurses or even going straight into the PhD program.
So Samuel Merritt started out as a nursing hospital, and our legacy really is nursing. Back in the day, if you wanted to be a nurse, you actually lived in a hospital in a dorm, and they trained you. When you were done, they gave you a diploma. So that's our history. We came out of that tradition. We've been doing it for more than 100 years, and since then we've branched out into the areas of the healthcare field. But, even our dean is always hard-pressed to say one's better than the other. I think it's just a matter of people finding where they feel that maybe the program fits them best. I think any nursing program is going to be challenging. I think one of our strengths is that we attract really amazing people. I mean, anyone who wants to be a nurse, they're already amazing to begin with. And I think any of these institutions would be fantastic to go to.
Well, Baylor University is a private Christian college, a university, research university. And so the experience that you're going to get with our nursing faculty is going to be a little bit different than where you get at public schools, because they're able to integrate faith into the classroom and talk about also the spiritual needs and spiritual care of patients. We all know that as people, we're multidimensional, and just because you're sick and have a physical need, there may be other layers of emotional and spiritual care that you need while you're in the hospital as well. And so we're able to have those conversations in our classroom. Also, just like you guys, our nursing school started as part of the Baylor University Medical Center Hospital over 100 years ago. We are still on that campus. They have 17 hospitals around the DFW area, and we have a very close partnership with them. About 50% of our students go to work with them every year, so we're really proud to be located on that campus and Dallas-Fort Worth area where there's so many stellar medical facilities, so our students are really getting great hospital experience.
At the University of Pennsylvania, the nursing program is very similar to a lot of the schools that have been mentioned here. It's been around for over 100 years in different kind of forms. The traditional bachelor's degree, whether you come in as a transfer student or you come in as an accelerated student, I think what Penn can offer you are opportunities. There's so many opportunities that you can incorporate into your education at Penn. You're learning from some of the top faculty in the field. You know, a lot of the textbooks that you are going to be using in class, there will be a chapter that's written by Penn faculty or edited by Penn faculty. But the opportunities that Philadelphia can offer you as a city, that the health systems that we use can offer you, that all of the clubs and organizations, study abroad opportunities, global health, whatever you're interested in, because of you're first and foremost a university student, you have access to all of that. So you can really come in and say, my passion is pediatrics on a global level. And you can figure out a way to kind of get that experience. So I think it's just really opportunities that you can take advantage of while you're getting your nursing education and growing in the field.
Thank you. Here's another question. Does getting a certified nursing assistant, CNA, or medical assistant license help in strengthening applications for nursing school? Let's start again with Ms. Filomena Circelli.
I think it depends. If you are looking to transfer to finish your first degree in nursing, not necessarily do you need to be a CNA or an LPN. I think at that point you just want to have a really strong understanding of nursing, maybe shadow some nurses, do some volunteer work, but not necessarily have the certification for that traditional, BSN 4-year or 2-year program. For anyone who's going into the accelerated program, you definitely want to have exposure to healthcare, and completing a CNA program is a great opportunity if you can take it, if you're able to incorporate it into your life. We are looking for students who have exposure to the healthcare field, which is everything from shadowing, volunteer work, clinical work as a CNA. It could also, we have students who've done work and maybe not directly related to healthcare. So we've had students that worked at the food bank, volunteered at the maternal coalition, not directly related to healthcare, but it's indirectly related to healthcare, right? If you don't have access to healthy foods, how do you, take care of, how can they take care of their diabetes? How can they stay healthy? And just seeing what's happening in the community and understanding why you want to go into nursing and what you're going to do once you have your education is what we're looking for. So just get out there, get some exposure, meet some nurses, nurse practitioners, do some volunteer work, no matter which program.
Yeah, I would say my response would be very similar. Our traditional program transferring in, we're looking at admission scores, grades, things like that. It's not as much of a interview, holistic view as is with the accelerator program, we do have a 1-year accelerated second degree program as well. And because of the intensity of that program, like you said, we need to make sure that you know what you're getting into. So that would be a great bonus. I will say our program is cohort based, so you're moving through each semester with your whole class. So if there's 100 of you that come in that semester, you stay with that 100 throughout the program. And you don't get to pick your classes. We pick them for you. You have 17 hours right off the bat. So if you do have CNA and previous experience, that's going to help you that first semester when everything is new and overwhelming and hard, and you're really going to have a leg up. So I would always recommend it.
Mm-hmm. So what Filomena and Cam said, we always value anyone who decides to become a CNA. It's nursing at its most basic. I think it's valuable. We don't require it, but if you are willing to do it, it's always going to be valuable.
Another plus to that is that if you're, working as a CNA in the hospital setting, and you're already an employee there, and so it could increase your chances of being I was getting ready to say admitted because I'm thinking admissions, hired as a registered nurse within that hospital because you're already an employee there as a CNA. So that just helps you get hired as a registered nurse because it is still competitive to find a new grad program. So that would just be a plus. But again, it's not required, but it won't hurt.
Our program admission is based on points, and you do get points if you have some experience either working or volunteering in a hospital. So if you were getting your CNA, you'd get some extra points to getting into the program, so that's one thing. Another thing is that it is really hard to shadow people. Now I work as a nurse, and if I want somebody to shadow me, it's really hard with HIPAA. That's like the privacy. Patients don't like strangers coming in and looking at them. I'm not sure why, but it's against the law now. So that's been really tough for people to shadow. So being a CNA or volunteering in a hospital is a really great way to be able to see what nurses really do, because you may look at the nurse and you look at the doctor and you say, I want to be that person. I don't want to be that one. And that sounds basic, but it's really helpful. And plus, working in a hospital, it seems glamorous on TV. In the real world, not super glamorous. So it's good to get to know that right away, right? I have some freshmen, and they actually said to me this week, I want to be a nurse because, do you watch that show Grey's Anatomy? I'm like, no. So it's not like Red Band Society or Grey's Anatomy, all right? So I love those shows. No. Okay? So thanks.
Here's a question for Ms. Liza Osoteo. What are some common errors seen on applications or some misconceptions that students have during the application process?
Well, for the ABSN, well, I'll do ELMS because that's probably easiest. For our ELMS FNP program, we have a lot of students who are interested in becoming family nurse practitioners, and it's very competitive. They're looking very specifically for people who want to be FNPs, and when they interview people, oftentimes when they evaluate the experience, what we find is they have really fantastic experiences as nurses, but they haven't taken the time to talk to FNPs. And so what I see common is too RN focused. And again, this isn't to say we value that. We want you to know the difference, but we also want to see that your application is specifically FNP focused. For the ABSN, to be honest with you, we have so many really good candidates. Everybody's fantastic. You make it hard for us. And the easy, I guess, the easy deny are the people who don't meet the minimum requirements. So that would be your GPA isn't at least a 3.0. And, 3.0 is pretty reasonable, I think. So I tell people GPAs are easy to fix. For our purposes, you take more classes, hopefully in something that will prepare you to be a nurse. But I think that would be my take on what I see as common mistakes, if you will, for being denied.
Would someone else like to add to that?
I know for our program, a lot of times on the essay, they'll put, I want to use nursing to go into medicine, and that's a no-no. And so that's a mistake to state that your ultimate career goal is to go into medicine. We don't recommend that. We don't recommend you use nursing as a way to go into medicine. And then the second thing, we require 2 letters of recommendations for our undergraduate program, and really think about who you're going to request those recommendations from. A professional that knows you well and supports your career goals, because you can have a great application and negative comments on your recommendations, and that would definitely hurt your admissions into the program.
I want to elaborate on your first comment. What we cringe about what we see is, I didn't get into medical school, or I didn't pass my pre-med classes, so I want to be a nurse. And that is just terrifying. You guys are already making the first step to come to a conference like this to learn that there are a lot of different health professions out there, and they're different. And nursing is very different than medicine. The type of person and the way you're going to spend your day is going to be very different than that of a doctor. And so making sure that you've researched nursing as a career and understand what that entails every day, and feel that that's something that you could excel at, and it's not just your second choice, because you have to be good at science for nursing too.
Yeah, that's true. I agree with all of that, and I think it's also really important that you apply to each individual school, right? So it's not one blanket essay, it's not one blanket application. What is it about Penn's program that really attracts you? Put it in the essay. What is so attractive about Baylor's program that this is going to be one of your top 5 schools you want to go into? Make it personal. Really take the time to research the schools on the website and follow the directions, right? So if it's asking for 4 recommendations, submit 4. If it's asking for 2, submit 2.
But don't quote our mission statement.
No, of course, yes, yeah.
You can do that.
Yeah, you're right, we do get that, but you may be looking at different programs we offer, looking in the future. I want to get my BSN, and one day I want to be a nurse midwife. Penn offers a midwifery program, and this is what's so great about it, and X, Y, and Z. Just apply to each school individually. I think it can make your application stand out a little bit more.
Okay. What would be one advice you would give a student who is deciding to go into nursing late in the undergrad career? We can start with Miss Bridget Parsh.
Okay. So you mean by late, you mean older? Is that what you mean? Is that what you mean by late, or do you mean like junior, senior?
I guess junior, senior.
Okay. Oh, I see. Well, that one good thing about what they're saying about medicine, it's such solid advice, is because a medical student, a pre-med, takes entirely different science classes than a pre-nursing student takes. So really look at that. If you're going between both, just make sure you're taking the right classes for the one you really want, all right? So look at both requirements. If you're thinking about both, you want to really decide now, because you have to take science, and there's at least 5 for our program. I'm probably similar here, what they have to be able to get into our program, and that means to me 5 semesters before you apply, all right? So don't put off your science till the end, because it's impossible to take 2 at a time. I know you're all geniuses and you're fantastically organized and put together, but one thing goes wrong, your backpack gets lost, anything happens and you miss a week of science classes, it's really hard to catch up. So I say 1 at a time every time. So that can make it take a while. So if you're thinking about nursing, start doing the science right away. I guess that would be my best advice. How's that?
Can I chime in? One thing, very practically speaking, if you are a junior or senior and you're thinking about nursing, do make sure that you investigate the financial implications of starting that major in your senior year versus going ahead and graduating and then maybe doing one of the accelerated programs. We have a 1-year accelerated program, and a lot of students will go ahead and finish a biology degree or a nutrition degree and then come back to do the 1 year. because it's 1 year and it sounds fast. Well, once you graduate, you lose Pell eligibility. You lose a lot of eligibility for loans and scholarships. So it may be better just to extend and not graduate and get that in before graduating. But just make sure you talk to financial aid and advisors and make sure you're making the best financial decision.
Okay. What is the outlook on job stability and job availability for those entering nursing school in the next few years?
Bridget.
Okay, we can start with Ms. Bridget Parsh.
It's been rough, all right? We're not going to put the sugar on. We would like to put the sugar on. It has been hard for our graduates to get jobs. As soon as the economy went bad, a lot of people, it did go bad, so let's be real. People that were married and maybe your wife lost her job, and if you were an RN, then you started working 2 jobs. So you meet a lot of RNs that have 2 jobs now, so they were taking up jobs. So jobs kind of went away. People that were part-time started working full-time. People put off retirement. If you read the paper, and the predictions are that those people are eventually going to retire and they're going to stop working so much. We're just, please let that happen soon. So a bye-bye, retirement party, yeah. We hear that that's going to happen. We didn't realize this was going to happen. We didn't predict that the economy would go bad and all of that, those things that happen. So I would like to tell you that you're going to get a job right as soon as you graduate. There's going to be a door, and they're just going to usher you in. It's going to be fantastic. A golf cart is going to drive you right into the door. I hope that is true. But that is not a guarantee. So it's very unpredictable. How's that?
It is getting a little better, though. Hospitals are hiring a few more new grads, but it's still not like it was 10 years ago. But, we see things getting better. And again, like I said earlier, when they had the question of the CNA, that's just a step in the door. And, if you do a good job, then, they'll hire you on, as a registered nurse. So just keep that into consideration when you're thinking about going into nursing school. And Southern California is a little better than Northern California as far as hiring new grads. We do hire more, and then the other states are even better, I think, than California.
Come to Texas. Our grads, the last 5 years, their average at the time of graduation, 75% are employed. Within 6 months, 90% are employed. The starting salary at Baylor University Medical Center is between $48,000 and $50,000. And they do interviews on campus for all of our students or their last semester, so come on down.
I was going to just say it's definitely regional. So Northern California has really suffered. The Boston area, it's also really difficult. Philadelphia is probably in between, Texas and California. But what I can tell you is when you are in that nursing program, utilize every single experience you have in the clinical environment. Your preceptor, get to know them, tell them what you're interested in, find out about the floors, find out about the hiring process, who's the nurse manager, how does recruitment work in that hospital. When you find it, use those resources, because honestly, a lot of it is really the network, because there's 5 new graduate nurse positions available, and there's 500 applicants. So get your foot in the door and utilize all of those experiences. Keep track, keep in touch, send emails, LinkedIn, because that will really help you, kind of move forward and find a position.
I think it's always tough to predict what a job market's going to be. I think people who enter the profession with, I'm entering it because it's job security, they're in for, a really rude awakening, because nursing is subject to economic woes. It goes in waves. And I remember the days when I had students that would get multiple job offers and sign-on bonuses. Those were fabulous days. I haven't seen that for forever. Maybe it'll come back. But it's true. It's like any other job. When you graduated from your school, did they say, here's a job waiting for you, take it? It's the same with nursing. It's a matter of making the relationships and networking. And some of our students are fabulous. They have something lined up. And then there are some that struggle. And I think part of it sometimes is they just aren't as savvy in terms of networking. And also, obviously, it's the economy, too. It is much better, I will say. We are seeing a lot of hospitals have new grad programs in Northern California, which is nice, but not everybody could do a new grad program. So, hope that helps.
Okay. Do all prerequisite courses have to be complete at the time of application? We can start with Ms. Cam.
Sure. Our program requires that you have about 2/3 of the prerequisites finished at the time of application. That gives us enough information to see how you're doing, if you're going to be a good candidate, and it gives you enough time once you've been accepted to finish up those few remaining courses. We know that the schools vary a little bit from here to there, and so it wouldn't be fair to ask you to get everything all the way done before you apply.
For our ABSN, ELMS, and our traditional BSN, it is okay to apply with prerequisites in progress or planned, but obviously the more you have done, the better, so we have a better sense of you, but you can apply with prerequisites in progress.
UCLA, for our BSN program, we do admit students directly from high school into the nursing major, and so there aren't like prerequisites to be completed, but for our transfer program, you can have prerequisites outstanding, and we also ask applicants to send us their official transcript at the end of the fall semester or quarter, and that way we can add those grades to your application. The more you have to complete it, the better it looks, but you can have outstanding prerequisites while you're applying for admissions.
Yeah, we're the same. Some in progress. You can have one science and one prereq in progress. So, yeah, it's similar.
Yeah, it's similar as well. You can have prerequisite courses in progress, but you definitely want to make sure you have at least half your sciences completed when you're applying, so that we've got something to look at, and then we'll have additional, grades throughout the admissions process.
What about the T's?
We do not require the T's.
We require the HESI A2. I don't think many schools in California do that, but it's similar to the T's.
We might be switching over to the HESI, but for now it's the T's.
UCLA does not require the T's.
Yeah, and we require the T's as 75 or higher. The higher score you get, the more points you get to getting into the program. It's all based on points for our program. We don't care. Unfortunately, we don't care about your lovely personality. I wish we did, but no points for loveliness.
So talking about the T's, next question is, if a potential applicant does not have a strong GPA, what are other ways to improve their application? And we can start with Ms. Rhonda.
If you don't have a strong GPA, you can make up for that in your statement of purpose, which is your essay, volunteer experience, life challenges. If something happened at the time where your grades kind of dropped, explain that on your essay. Multicultural experience. UCLA does a holistic review, so we don't only look at the GPA, we look at the whole student. And so if your statement of purpose is outstanding and you have a lot of leadership, volunteer work, or work in the healthcare environment, multicultural experience, bilingual, first generation, any life challenges, that could make up for your GPA.
Yeah, a lot of times students will ask, what was the cutoff GPA to get in? Last year we'll hear you had to have a 3.7 to get in. And you can't say that with our program because it is a point system, a rubric type thing. So if you have maybe the minimum just a 3.0, but then you do fabulous on the T's or the HESI, that might bring you kind of as where maybe you were a 3.5 or a 3.7.
Penn's very similar to UCLA. It's a holistic review of your application. We also do interviews, phone interviews, mostly informal unless you're applying to the master's and PhD. It's a little bit more formal. If it's extremely low, the GPA, I strongly recommend a supplemental statement. So you don't have to put it as part of your personal statement, but just kind of addressing, if something happened. The further away you are from your undergraduate GPA, the less important it eventually becomes. And then look at your prerequisite courses. If you struggled in a lot of the science classes, maybe take some advanced science classes. They might not be prerequisites, but if you can complete a biochem course and do well, that can help your application, at least for Penn.
For UCLA, for the GPA for our transfer program, we calculate it by any UC transferable courses you completed. So it's not just the prerequisites.
Yeah. Our GPA is your undergraduate GPA. So we look at any courses you completed prior to your degree being conferred. And then we specifically look at the prerequisite courses and their grades, but we don't have a GPA for the prereqs. It's your undergrad GPA.
At Baylor, we do just look at your prerequisite GPA. So if you had another major for your first 2 years and you took calculus, you took a lot of classes that we didn't require, we won't look at those. We'll just look at the 66 prerequisite hours.
And to add to the confusion, we look at your most recent 60 semester units for the ELMS program as well as the ABSN program. For the BSN, we look at all college, and the more important GPA across the board for us, though, is the science GPA. And for us, it's based on anatomy, physiology, microbiology, and chemistry. And that's, for us, we really want to see you can handle a science-based curriculum because that's what nursing is.
It's really hard to get away from a not-so-good GPA. So I always tell pre-nursing students, your GPA is the one thing you have control over. You don't have control over you being, growing up in a disadvantaged environment. You don't have control over your T-score. It's kind of like the SAT. If you retake the SAT, do you really go up that much higher? Not really, right? So it's really hard to control that, but you can control your GPA. So try to get as good of grades as you can in your GPA because that's in your control. So really get in there and really work hard on that, especially those science classes. That's a lot of units. So that really bumps you up on the GPA.
The T stands for Test of Essential and Academic Skills, and there's 4 parts to it. There's a reading section, a math section, a science subsection, and English grammar. And the schools, all the different nursing schools will probably dictate what they're looking for. For Samuel Merritt specifically, we're mostly interested in the reading comprehension, followed by the math. But again, every nursing school is going to have different requirements for the T's, but it's often a common entrance exam for nursing programs.
Okay. Do students who apply for from a four-year institution have a higher chance of getting admitted than students who apply from community college? We can start with Miss Filomena Circelli.
Sure. So if you're applying as a transfer student from a four-year institution or a community college, at Penn it really doesn't affect your application negatively coming from a community college, because honestly, when you apply as a transfer, the most important aspect is your college transcript. So we're looking for really strong grades in the sciences as a transfer student. That's really important. So it doesn't affect your chances. Penn does. Penn requires the SAT or the ACT. And you can submit your old scores. You don't have to retake the exam. You can retake it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
UCLA, we don't consider the SAT or ACT for transfer students. For high school students, we do, of course. But for transfers, we don't consider them at all. It doesn't matter if you're transferring from a community college or a four-year institution. It's just easier on our part, especially if you're going to a community college in California, because we have the IGETC agreement and assist.org, so it's just easier for us to process the application. If you're transferring from a four-year institution, we require course descriptions, especially for our chemistry and biology courses, to make sure they're equivalent to the courses offered at UCLA.
Okay. How heavily are outside activities, for example, clubs and organizations, weighed when being considered for admissions?
I'll just say at Sac State, that doesn't get included at all. It's your grades, your T-score, volunteering, being bilingual, disadvantaged background. There's one more. Oh, and if your high school was not good, yay, you get points. So hopefully you went to a really bad high school. Yeah.
So again, for UCLA, we do a holistic review. So yes, we want to see a well-rounded applicant, and we do look at extracurricular activities, and even to take it a little further, you know, if you held an officer position like secretary, treasurer, or something like that. But we do want you involved in extracurricular activities and organizations.
We value people with diverse backgrounds, and part of the fun for me is just seeing how diverse, what kind of background you've come from before. Like in our program, we've had opera singers, we've had pastry chefs. I mean, I know you were talking about what's outside stuff. We value any kind of service or leadership experience. I think that adds to the profession, but we like people from all different backgrounds. It adds to the profession.
We don't have any kind of formal rubric or metric that would give you extra points for your involvement at Baylor.
Where I'm similar to UCLA and Samuel Merritt, where it does play a big part. We want someone who's well-rounded, involved, whether it's on campus, in the community, leadership roles. It does not have to be related to healthcare. I mean, it could just be, you're the leader of the student government. It's perfectly fine. So definitely think of everything you're involved in, related and not related to healthcare. Make sure it's highlighted somewhere on your application, because we definitely look at it. So for us, it is pretty competitive. We admit between, I would say, 8 and probably 14 transfer students, and we get a little bit under 100 applications.
We have a 2+2 program with 3 institutions: Holy Names, Notre Dame, and Mills. And so those institutions actually give us a class, and whatever seats aren't filled by them get filled by transfer students. So that it's sometimes hard to gauge in terms of how many, if you're transferring in, how many of them are actually outside transfer students. Your odds of getting into our program as a transfer student are fantastic if you do our 2+2 program. It's a 2+2 program, and that's really ideal for people who are freshmen. They don't have a lot of units. They do all their general education units at our partner schools, so Holy Names, Mills, and Notre Dame. And then if they maintain a certain GPA, they have guaranteed admission to our nursing program. And again, whatever seats aren't filled are filled by transfer students. So that's just the one hitch I think that's difficult about transferring into our program. A lot of the seats are already kind of spoken for, so to speak.
For UCLA, we average about 150 applicants a year. We only admit once a year, and we only admit 10 students.
Wow. For Sac State, it's all based on points. So whether you're a Sac State student or a transfer student, you just do the prereqs and do all those steps that I said. It's equally competitive for all of them. Sac State students don't get an advantage. You can talk about the good or bad of that as we go along. But so we get about 400 applications every semester, and we admit 80. So, yeah, and that'd be transfer or, yeah, they're all transfers. I guess you'd look at it that way. How's that?
It took me a minute to formulate my response because we've kind of been in flux over the last few years. Baylor University has a pre-nursing program, and those students get preference in our program. In years past, that's made it very difficult for transfers, but now we have a spring class that's quite large, so we only take transfers in the spring class, and we admit up to 100 in that term. And we just bought a new building, so we're hoping to grow even more.
Okay, there's a question. Oh, yeah.
Sure, go ahead.
This is for Rhonda. You mentioned you have a 10 student accepting this for transfer. Is it the same as from high school?
No, we admit a little bit more for high school. I don't like to state the numbers because students get discouraged. It's a very competitive program. We do admit a lot more than 10. But, you know, like I tell applicants, your chances of being admitted is as good as anybody else. Of course, apply to more than one school, but always make UCLA your first choice.
How much and what type of experiences are you looking for in an applicant? I know we kind of went over it, but if you have additional information, you may add to it.
We want you to be happy in your first semester. And being in a hospital is kind of like being in this building if the doors were shut. So all the patients would be on out the windows, and we would be in here with no windows, right? Nurses do not see windows unless you're in the patient's room, because we want the patients to have the windows. So you have to be able to work inside. So, and you're inside with sick people. Okay, I won't look at Rhonda, but if there's a sick person right here, you have to be inside for 12 hours with sick people that you actually have to touch, all right? So I want to keep it real like that. They don't show you that on TV, do they? They're standing on the side like, yeah, maybe they have a pregnancy, okay? But no, you are in there, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, they are sick people, and you got to be in there. So I see if people that have never been in a hospital, which, you know, is a lot of us, you know, haven't had that experience. I didn't before I became a nursing student. I was shocked. There's sick people in there. I mean, it was pretty shocking. So you want to have some exposure to that and know, like, do I really want to touch this sick person who's coughing? Like, are you going to be, you know, kind of think about that. So that just makes, in our program, it just makes your first semester go a lot better when you get over that realization about it, okay? It does get better. But that just does help you personally. It doesn't give you more points in our program, but just the volunteer, the three points. Hopefully that helps.
UCLA doesn't have a rolling admissions. And so all applications are reviewed around the same time, and the decisions are made through one meeting for each of our programs. So getting it in early doesn't help your chances of being admitted, but it helps us process the applications faster.
But getting it in late does affect your
Yes,
chances
we
of
do not
admission.
accept late applications at all.
Yeah, we're similar. We're not rolling admissions, so if the deadline's October 15th, we don't do anything with the apps until October 16th.
Ditto.
We have about 3 more minutes. Does anyone have any other questions? Yes?
Are you, does it make a difference if you apply to Accelerated BSN and the entry-level master's programs at the schools that offer both of them? Or can you do that?
For Penn, you have to choose one. So let's say you would choose the BSN to MSN, the direct entry to the master's. If you, for some reason, are not admitted into the MSN, your application gets moved to second degree. So if you kind of want to be considered for both, you would apply BSN MSN. Okay, but you wouldn't submit 2 applications for second degree in BSN MSN.
We encourage people to apply to both. Keep your options up and apply to as many programs as you can if you want to be a nurse.
UCLA only offers the entry-level master's program for second-degree students.
Okay.
So we have an entry-level MSN in case management and F&P. We have an accelerated BSN. We have the 2+2 program, the BSN, the CRNA, and the DMP, as well as an MSN, just a regular MSN, FNP, MSN case management. And did I mention CRNA? Okay, so. I think a good CRNA student would have a lot of critical care experience, has obviously an understanding of what nurse anesthetists do. I think it would be good to have at least 3 years of critical care experience before you step into the CRNA role.
Okay, so can we have a round of applause for our panelists?